Chapter 8 of Genesis is this morning's material that I'm going to reference through. There's some point I'm going to get to doing multiple chapters at a time, but we're just not there yet. And again, I have to say I am missing different nuances. I want to highly recommend Google Bible Project Genesis 1 through 11, and it'll give, again, a little bit of an overview, less detail than what I'm doing here, but help also maybe put all of these themes together. I just highly recommend Bible Project anything. Genesis chapter 8. In this section, the floodwaters recede, Noah responds to God, and God responds to Noah. Verse 1 is a word that sometimes we struggle with in English, and what exactly does this mean? God remembered. Are we saying God forgot about Noah? Like, put him in the boat and then just went off and was doing something else, and, oh, right, good thing I put that on my to-do list, rescue Noah. That's not it. The word remember here is a cultural covenant language word. It means I'm going to act in accordance with the promise I have made, with the covenant commitment I have made. And so it's a word that's about, I'm about to take action on the promise that I have done, the promise I have given. And so God remembers Noah, meaning the water's about to something has to be done with the waters, because the promise of God is that he was going to keep Noah safe. The waters recede, again, God's promise, chapter 6, verse 19. Verse 14, well, before that, Noah does the raven and the dove to learn the depth of the remaining water. I've mentioned this week about the deep waters and God's control over them, very different than the relationship of God and the waters in other ancient cultures of this time. But here's Noah's response. As you read this section, notice what he does. He gets out of the boat, gets out of the ark, and my picture in my mind is I see him kind of coming out and like doing the, like the person they've just survived like a plane trip where things have gone wrong, but the pilot brings it down safely. And there's that, cliche picture of the person who comes out of the plane and kisses the ground. They're so thankful they're on solid ground. Well, in my mind, I have this picture of Noah coming out and just like kissing the ground because like, oh, it's dry, we're safe. But what we see is that Noah builds an altar. First time the word altar is used in the Old Testament. It's a place of worship, of sacrifice. He sacrifices some of the clean animals. Again, that's building a foundation for later sections of the Torah, of the first 5 books of the Old Testament. And he's offering this sacrifice in thankfulness to God. And God's response is, he says he was pleased. Again, Noah is giving this, thank you, God, you remembered me. You were faithful to the covenant you made with me. And there's this, I've received grace from you. And I have this feeling of relational obligation to return to you for some reciprocity. It's like, I can't thank you, for saving my life by, giving up my life, literally, but I can do an act to represent that. But look at God's response to Noah. And here again is where, again, think narratively of this section of Genesis. There's God's created Adam and Eve, humanity for a particular purpose. There's a fall. There's this promise in Genesis 3:15. And when will this curse be undone? Is it going to be Noah? And here we see, even before Noah's sin that we'll look at Genesis 9, here we see Noah's not going to be the one through whom God undoes the curse. Because God's words at the end of this chapter is, the curse is not going to be undone. But God promises, I'm not going to add to the curse. I'm going to maintain the order of seasons. And we see here what is heartbreaking, but also true. Verse 21, that humanity's heart has not been changed. The only humanity left at this point, narratively, is Noah and the 7 other members of his family. And if we think, well, it's got to be Noah's kids, they're going to be the source of the problem, we'll see it's not. Noah's not going to be the one to fulfill that promise of Genesis 3:15. Narratively, we're still waiting. So the question for today is, where have you seen God's faithfulness to you? Perhaps even despite your own lack of faithfulness to him. Respond with thankfulness to God. Thank God for his grace and mercy to you, to us. And maybe consider doing it in a way that costs you something. Not to repay God, not that you can kind of make yourself worthy of all that he's done for you, but out of a recognition that God is worthy of our sacrifice. God is worthy of everything we have. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you. May the Lord be gracious to you. And today, would you know his peace? God bless.